5.3 Spatial Design as a Representation of the Psyche. Welcome back. Many diagrams that deal with the conscious and the unconscious mind often depict the conscious mind as something above ground, something on the top, while the unconscious mind lies below it. And in this video, I would like to show that at many points of Silent Hill 2, the spatial design of its game world follows a similar kind of logic. In particular, there is a lot of downward movement in this game that can be interpreted as going deeper into the unconscious mind. As mentioned before, the game does not begin in the actual town of Silent Hill. Instead, we are in a parking area on an observation deck above Silent Hill, from which James looks down. The main road that would lead into town is blocked, and so the only way to reach Silent Hill is via a detour through a forest path, and this forest path leads downwards. In other words, right from the start, in order to even enter Silent Hill, James has to move downwards. A first hint that his journey into Silent Hill could be seen as a descent into his unconscious mind. Much later in the game, the player finds texts directly addressed to James, which speak of fear and of an abyss. I quote, 死ねに見つめられることを恐れる者には死ねの覗き込むことはできない。真実は進むことでしか得られない。This could be translated as, those who are scared of being stared at by the abyss cannot look into the abyss themselves. The truth can only be obtained by moving forward. The abyss mentioned in this text can be likened to the unconscious mind, at the bottom of which lies the truth, James' repressed memories. The fact that the text speaks of the abyss being capable of staring back at you, however, makes this abyss a strange and uncanny entity, something active that watches James, something from which he cannot shy away if he wishes to push forward, or rather downwards, towards the bottom of his unconscious mind. And this could well be a reference to the entire town of Silent Hill itself, if we want to view it as an entity that can access your unconscious mind and create manifestations from it while watching you and reacting to your actions. You could say that Silent Hill itself stares back at James from the depth of the abyss called the unconscious. You could even say that Silent Hill has become the abyss in which the uncanny, as defined by Freud, manifests itself, since it causes things to emerge from the unconscious mind that have been repressed. Moving on, after mentioning the abyss, these texts then lead James to the building of the Silent Hill Historical Society, called the Sairen Hiru Rekishi Shiryokan in Japanese. A very literal translation of this would be Building for the Historical Records of Silent Hill. Both of these names make it a very fitting location for James to visit, because it is a place that deals with studying and revealing the past, and it is there that the game begins to dive into increasingly symbolic and surreal locations that we reach by repeatedly going downwards once again. Within this building, James finds a broken wall, and behind it lies a seemingly endless set of stone stairs. The immense length of these stairs and the fact that James' descent is accompanied by creepy noises mirrors the initial descent into Silent Hill at the beginning of the game, which was also extremely long and accompanied by eerie sounds. So here we have another descent, even deeper into the unconscious mind. Once the player finally reaches the bottom of these stairs, they arrive in an old abandoned prison that appears to have been sealed off or buried a long time ago. This is yet another fitting location, because all those that have come to Silent Hill in this title are prisoners of repressed memories or repressed feelings that lie hidden within their unconscious mind, and they cannot return to a normal life within society as long as they are shackled by these. In this regard, Silent Hill could be seen not just as a place of punishment, but also as one of liberation, at least for those who manage to confront and accept their repression, and in doing so break out of their mental prison. The spatial design during the journey into the prison and beyond presents us with a series of holes into which James has to jump if he wants to proceed any further. The first hole already offers a somewhat uncanny but still comparatively normal sight, but the second one of them strongly implies that we have left the normal world even further behind and are jumping into symbolic holes now. As you can see, the second hole consists of a prison hallway that has been tilted by 90 degrees, so that ceiling, floor, and walls of the hallway form the four sides of the hole. What's more, the doorframe that James is standing in and from which he is staring into the abyss would actually be a hole in the ground itself if you were to tilt the hallway back to a normal position. In a way, we're jumping from a hole into another hole here. The theory that we strayed even further from the real world is supported by the fact that James is completely unharmed every time he jumps into another hole, no matter how impossibly deep they are. Some of these jumps are merely followed by what seems to be a brief moment of unconsciousness, which is hilariously fitting given that we are going deeper and deeper into the unconscious mind. But other than that, James is perfectly fine. Finally, the last hole that James jumps into leads to an elevator that activates automatically as soon as James enters, and, of course, it goes down too. The fact, by the way, that James didn't have to press any buttons and the elevator just starts moving on its own as if reacting to his presence is not just uncanny but also demonstrates once more that Silent Hill might be watching him, actively reacting to his actions, leading him further yet into the depth of his unconscious mind. Of course, it could also symbolize his own readiness to move forward deeper into the abyss, just like that strange text earlier had asked him to do if he wanted to reach the truth. But as mentioned before, I would see the town as another character within the story and not just a passive location. In my interpretation of this game, it is an entity that acts and reacts to James and the other people that have entered its realm. Now, the elevator finally brings James to a labyrinth where he wanders through dark hallways filled with branching paths, ladders, and dead ends. It feels like we arrived at the deepest part of the subconscious mind, wandering around in search of the truth that must be hidden here. And we do indeed find some of it, but only with regards to two other characters. Angela and Eddie, both of whom you meet again in this labyrinth, reveal their past here. James, on the other hand, is not ready yet. Although he does appear strangely pensive after having killed Eddie in self-defense, almost as if he was close to remembering that this was not the first human he killed.
I killed a human being. A human being.
Either way, for James, it is the videotape in the hotel at the end of the game that finally directly confronts him with his own repressed memories, no longer implying anything but showing him visually what he has done, allowing him to see the truth at last that has been hinted at so many times before. Thereafter, he is ready to face his judgment. The final confrontation in the game is, except for one ending, always Maria dressed as Mary, who then transforms into a terrible monster that has to be defeated. The place for this final battle lies far above, on a roof that James reaches by climbing many long stairs, and this might be a stretch, but I would like to remind you of the concept of the superego, which Freud in German literally called das Über-Ich. A direct translation of that would be the above ego, thus defining it as something beyond or above the ego. It is mostly unconscious, but you could still say that it looms above your ego, always watching you from high above and ready to judge you for everything you do. Also note that super and superego also comes from the Latin word for above, so this ascent at the end of the game could in turn be seen as a spatial representation of James' ascent towards the superego to face the judgment for what he has done to Mary as well as for his behavior throughout the game. Again, this might be a stretch, but I always felt it was an interesting thought that's at least worth mentioning. Alright, and here I will conclude this video. In the next one, we will take a closer look at the two other characters that were called to Silent Hill due to their dark past, Angela and Eddie. I hope to see you there, and as always, take care and goodbye.